Good morning, friends of the channel.
Hello.
From Elisa and the great Emma, good morning. We're a bit hot. We've even sat down. Yes, right. No, actually, for the job we're doing today, we're more comfortable on this little bench. Actually, it's not a bench, but an old umbrella stand from a primary school that was decommissioned. And we've put a wooden board on top with our cardboard boxes. You've probably seen it in 1,000 videos, but we really like it. Reusing things is always the best choice. This tutorial or reel, what should we call it? We don't know what will come out of it. Maybe it'll end up longer or shorter. We don't know yet. Anyway, today's video is important because we're going to talk to you about the two new magic paint resins. The white one, which you'll see in a beautiful reel or tutorial, maybe a tutorial. Anyway, there will be a beautiful video made by our girls from Bologna, Lisa and Ilaria, who run my shop in Bologna in Zola Predosa, and one we're making for you today, but with the transparent resin. So we'll explain to you. Roughly speaking, what are the key points of both? And above all, what changes when you use one rather than the other? I'll set aside the white one for a moment to tell you that the transparent one, obviously, will remain perfectly clear. It's called Diamante, not by chance, but because once it's completely dry, it stays totally transparent. We'll then see how to treat it so that it can become matte, satin, or glossy. So, depending on how you want to seal it or change it, you can do so. The nicest thing about today's video is that we'll give you a few tips on how you can embed any object inside the resin. So, flowers, leaves, gold leaf residue, Re Mida, all that leaf we keep when we crumble it. There you go, it's really important and should always be kept. But above all, we'll show you just how versatile it is, because from Christmas decorations for the tray to making little pieces of jewellery, it's truly a must-have. One of the most important things, though, is the way this resin has been designed and created, because it's absolutely safe for us to use. Isn't that right, Anna? Tell us something.
Well, it's an epoxy resin without isocyanates, so it's completely safe and it doesn't give off any fumes at all.
It's fume-free,
Exactly. And it's safe for everyone.
so you can use it with complete peace of mind. Bear in mind, we're talking about hobby use here, so we're working with very small moulds and we're not making tables or flooring. So we're talking about resin that's used in small quantities, and today we'll also tell you exactly how big or small those quantities are. So please remember, if you're thinking of using a resin that's not mine for large quantities, you should follow the guidelines for that particular resin or the guidelines for working with large surfaces. Here, we're talking about small surfaces and the timings for our resin. This resin can be used both with the transparent and the white version, whether to create decorations that are just decorative in themselves, like a Christmas ornament, for example, made inside a bauble. We'll show you the mould later, or to make actual embellishments that are then applied, so glued on. Obviously, if you need to glue something on and then paint it, it's not worth buying the transparent resin. Buy the white resin instead, as it's a neutral colour that can be painted with any colour you like. So make your resin creations and then apply them to the surface afterwards. On the other hand, if you specifically want to create something transparent that stays that way, it's best to use transparent resin. For example, let me pull out of my hat this. Here it is. Here we've actually embedded gold leaf scraps. We'll show you how it's done. The result is really beautiful. It can be applied directly onto a piece of furniture or used as a decoration, so it's up to you to decide how to use something like this. I can imagine it, for example, applied to a mirror, say a mirror that's chipped or slightly broken. You know how beautiful it can become, and above all, how it can be saved if, at the point where there's a crack, we apply a decoration like this. So the gist of it is transparent resin. If I need it to be transparent because I want it to stay completely clear or because I need to embed something inside and it needs to be visible. White resin, anytime I want it white or I want to add colour to it, all right. Why is this distinction so important?
White resin is much quicker.
In about an hour you mix it and you're already turning out moles,
And after an hour, it's still workable. That's another advantage.
which is very important, and of course it's written on the box. So don't worry if you need to remember something. Just check the packaging. Everything is clearly specified. But why does transparent resin take longer than white? Actually, I can make a transparent resin that takes exactly the same amount of time as the white resin, but if it becomes solid straight away, it traps bubbles and impurities that could otherwise be shaped or altered. We could even embed something inside. So, in fact, it's important that transparent resin takes longer. Precisely because this way we avoid air bubbles and the extreme speed, which is actually needed for the white resin, because with the white one, it might only take 2 to 3 minutes from the moment you create the component to when you mix it to when you pour it into the container. With the transparent one, you can take more time.
Yes, we have about 20 minutes to work with it. Then it takes 9 hours for the initial drying. So when you unmold it, it's still shapeable, but it becomes completely rigid, really rock hard, just like glass after 12 hours.
So, in reality, we've halved the time compared to our new product and the resins we used in the past, which, to be fair, were excellent and very quick, but still. Anyway, the curing time there was 24 hours. So, in a space of a day, you can already make twice as many resin pieces as you used to. Enough chit chat. Now, let's start showing you how this new resin works. Inside our box, listen, is empty. You'll find these 2 bottles. How does the magic paint resin work? 2 of these, 1 of this. You know, I hate weighing things. I can't stand measuring in grams. So for me, it's essential that the process is easy to follow. We've got some little cups that Emma had left over from the wild night she had yesterday with the shots, admit it, and we're using those. So nothing fancy is needed. You see these little cups, it said compostable on them, and here it even has the weight, 0204. Just buy them at the supermarket. Let's not waste money unnecessarily. We take 1 for this and 1 for this, because when we put them together, obviously they become rigid. So we're going to use 2 different little cups. Once you've used them, just wash them and you can use them as many times as you like. Emma measures twice. I measure once. Go ahead and start putting it in. You go, oh, wait. All right. Now, make sure you are super careful and extremely efficient and fast, because here the reaction time is slightly longer than the other one. But as soon as you thoroughly combine these 2 chemical components, the catalysis process starts. So you really do need to be quite quick. What do we want to do first? Decoration? What do we want to create? Because I saw the feathers, I saw this beautiful little plant. It was put some things under pressure. Just a few lovely little flowers that we'll now take and use to decorate our clear resin pieces as well, because in fact you can put absolutely anything you might like inside. Flowers, pine needles, leaves, gold, feathers, anything you like.
I'd start with a little dish.
Let's start with a dish, and what can you put these sides?
I really like a feather.
But what should I do? First the base, then the feather. Yes, okay, go on then, start. Let's put the activator into our resin, give it a stir with our wooden stick in the little cup from the kit, because of course the kit is available to buy as a whole, or you can also buy the individual components. You can purchase them separately, either from us or from your local retailers. Now we give it a really, really, really good stir and start applying a first layer. It's absolutely essential to mix it really, really well, because if you don't, the components won't blend properly, they won't activate, and the resin will end up a mess. It'll remain sticky, so be careful, okay? Both A and B must be mixed perfectly.
But this transparent resin allows us to do that. It gives us a bit more time.
I start by applying a first layer, and you'll gradually notice, as you hold this little cup in your hand, that it starts to warm up. The transparent resin takes a bit longer, whereas the white resin is much quicker. Within a minute, it's already really hot, very hot. So don't worry, if you feel heat, it's completely normal. What do you think, Emma? Should we put the featherette?
Yes.
So do it, do you trust me?
Go on, go ahead.
Now we'll start pouring the other resin on top. We'll probably need to make a little bit more. The advice I give you, and I really mean it, is this. Don't do it all at once. Rather, do it in 2 stages. Also, because this resin allows us to do that. The great thing about transparent resin is exactly this, that you can take your time with it. Let's also take 2 little white flowers and put them in. One here, what do you think? Yes. Money, yeah. Here.
Yes, lovely.
Oh, do you want to hear?
It looks good close by as well.
In the kit, you'll also find this small metal stirring tool, which is absolutely essential if you want to properly adjust and position the components you're embedding in the resin. Now that Emma's made the second mixture for me, I'll put it back in. If any tiny stray fragments of our feather are still protruding upwards, we can quite simply use the stick to gently press them back down into place, just like this. Because the resin is so dense, it allows you to have these details exactly where they should be. And perfectly halfway between the base and the top. My creation needs to dry. 8 to 9 hours. Why do I say that? Because it changes depending on how humid or cold the air is, or how hot and dry it is. So Emma and I put the pizza in the oven very gently without causing any damage, and we leave it still like that on this wooden board for 8 to 9 hours. But in the meantime, we don't just sit around doing nothing, we get on with other things. I've got a bit of resin left here, which is obviously still liquid because I've got 20 minutes to work with it. So I start having fun with my decorations using the leaves. They would be beautiful, hung on a Christmas tree or on a chandelier, perhaps with a thread like fishing line, transparent, but with little flakes of gold leaf inside. All the leftovers from our Re Mida leaf, which weren't used at the time, are used for something else. We can break it up even further and make it perfect for shaping onto our leaf. Remember, you can make them straight away, so put them on immediately, or else pour a bit of resin over the top, and then add a bit more afterwards so that the leaf stays perfectly in the middle. I'll show you both scenarios. So, in the first case, we put a bit of leaf in straight away, while in the other, we add it halfway through the process. We pour our transparent resin. If it moves around, that's no problem. Let's see how it behaves. We'll also add just a few drops at a time so it doesn't spill over. If we need to get it into very specific spots, we can always do that using our iron stick. Let's take a bit more and go here. You can make them really, really small as well. Actually, it's beautiful. Even with tiny flecks, it still looks very elegant. We'll put some in first and the others we'll add later after I've already poured a bit of resin. This step was just to clear up a few doubts, because I already know you would have asked me, Elisa, do I put the decorations inside the resin straight away or halfway through? It's up to you. Just know that if you add them straight away, you can also do something else. Make a first layer of resin, for example, then add the feather when the resin is already dry or after a few hours have passed, and then pour a second layer on top. This is a very clever idea. The 2 layers will still bond together. For example, you could do a first layer, wait 2 hours, add the feather, and then pour a second layer. The feather stays in place, completely suspended in the middle. Let's carry on with a bit more method. So here, in this little bud, I want to show you how it will turn out. Lovely, a little flower encapsulated. I can really picture it. This little flower, for example, how about using it for a necklace? And voila! The important thing is that they're completely encapsulated. Also, because the flower needs to be covered, otherwise it won't be preserved. So please make sure it's completely under the resin. Our second little mould is ready as well, so we'll move it and place it on a flat surface where it will set for 8 hours. To make both little moulds, so with the plate where there's a lot of resin plus the other mould, I used 2 cups twice. So twice I made 2 doses and 1 and 2 doses and 1, basically very little. Now let's move on to the next step with this little herb, which I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? I don't know the name, but it's beautiful because it's dried, and we'll use it to cover this beautiful mould. We were extremely precise. We filled our entire flower with these filaments. It's so lovely that I don't want to add any more flowers, so I'll use these little flowers here for something else later. But I've been caught out. First of all, be careful, because when the resin starts to cure, it gets really hot. Secondly, it's already rigid. Why? Because actually, the more resin there is in a single block, the more there is and the faster it cures. The thinner it's spread, the longer it takes. That's just one of its rules. So unfortunately, this one can't be used anymore. I'll wait for it to cool down, throw it away unfortunately, and make it again. Right, Emma? Yes, you learn by making mistakes. My decorations are here, resting. See you in 8 hours. Quite a few hours have passed, but you don't need to wait that long because, of course, we went to bed last night. And this morning we arrived and found our beautiful, perfect resin cases. But the estimated time is 8, maximum 9 hours, all right? If it's hot, it takes less time. If it's humid, it takes longer. So make sure the temperature's warm and not humid, nice and dry. Now, together, let's see how they're taken out of the mould. Come on, Clarissa. They look absolutely beautiful. And please don't worry if, when you first take them out, you don't see them completely transparent, because in reality, they are perfectly clear. But you see, this slight cloudiness actually comes from our mould, which is just slightly textured. Now I'll show you how we'll make them completely transparent. Just take a look at this. Gold leaf. Let's go. This is one of my favourites. Once this particular piece becomes transparent, it will be absolutely beautiful. We still have the two lovely little soldiers, which feature a beautiful mix of green leaves, flowers and gold leaf. And this lovely little plate. I wonder how the plate will be. Right now it's not transparent, but soon it will be. Now, to make all these objects completely transparent, you need to use the glossy protective coating. Don't use protective coatings that aren't magic paint or solvent-based protectives. Don't even use Signo Oro, it's alcohol-based and it'll dissolve the resin, please remember that. So only use water-based magic paint protective coating, preferably the glossy one. Glossy protective coating, undiluted. This is the largest brush from the flat tip brush set, and this is a brush specifically for protective coatings. One of the few times you'll see me using this brush, because you know I usually go for big, over-the-top brushes. This one, on the other hand, is a brush with a small reservoir, but it's used for very fine and delicate work. First of all, I'll show you with this small brush. This is something I often do to avoid dirtying the edge of the can. I dip it here. I also clean it here. Let's apply the protective coating over the entire flower. If you pay attention, you'll see as if by magic that it starts to become transparent. When it's dry, of course, it'll be 100% transparent.
This happens because silicone still has micropores, and by applying a glossy protective coat, so with a shiny finish, we're closing up these micropores, which are what make the piece slightly matte. So everything becomes brighter and shinier again, just like before.
It could also be down to the mould in any case. Emma?
Yes, yes, exactly. Because the resin flows even into the tiniest crevices. So the micro pores in the silicone mold get imprinted a bit in the resin.
We can also apply 2 coats, right, Emma?
Yes, that way we seal everything.
Not because of wear, but for the sake of shine. Because obviously this decoration won't get much wear, but with 2 coats it'll be even shinier. Obviously, I put it on this little cup just so it wouldn't stick while I was applying the protective layer, nothing else. Now let's move on to the little plate, which is our favourite at the moment, because we want to see if this beautiful feather, once it's transparent, will stand out even more. I'm switching brushes, obviously, depending on the surface, the size of the brush needs to be different. I'm taking our protective brush, which is very soft, but I don't load it with too much protective coating. I only wipe off one side. Look, I keep this side nice and loaded, and off we go. If you leave the protective coating a little bit thicker, it self-levels. So the result will look better with the protective coatings. You should never drag it too much or go over it too many times, as it needs to self-level anyway. All right, now we'll let it dry, but just look already. You can see this beautiful feather effect. Let's apply a second coat. Obviously, you can speed up the drying with a hairdryer. This way, the shine will be even more beautiful. Of course, here you can also see all the grain patterns of the leaves, and they should be noticeable. A key feature of this resin is that even when completely dry, it's still slightly mouldable. Look at this! It doesn't break, of course, and if you press it, it springs back straight. This is great. What does it mean that it can also be attached, stuck onto surfaces that are curved, like a hat stand, the side of a piece of furniture that's rounded, and several hours have passed, more than 12 hours. So please, make sure you remember this, all right? Because it's a perfect mix between our wood pulp mouldings and the old resin we used with redesign. So here we have a product that's completely different and is a fusion of both. Emma, what do you say if we take a nice piece of that transparent thread? Let's show everyone at home how beautiful our decorations look hanging from the thread.
Yes.
Try a dark background.
Come on, let's get organised.
Other than the Diamante, the transparent resin you've just seen, remember that there's also Porcellana Resin, which is white, and just look at the amazing decorations I can make for you. This is a bauble, a Christmas decoration, light, all hand-painted and made by us. Isn't it stunning? We've carefully suspended all our transparent ornaments with an incredibly thin fishing line because we absolutely love this delicate, light and highly sophisticated effect. Look how clearly you can see the golden flecks and how these very delicate blades of grass are highlighted. And here are the toy soldiers, which have a mix of little leaves, flowers and flecks. But this little bud with just a tiny flower inside is truly spectacular. Beautiful! Even more beautiful is our little dish, which has this delicate ethereal feather inside. And 2 little flowers. It has remained incredibly shiny thanks to the glossy coating. Having fun with resin is really easy. You just need a bit of patience, remember that. Where can you find the new resin? Diamante and Porcellana Magic Paint only at authorised retailers, which you can find on the magicpaint.it website, and on the magicpaint.it website you can also buy it directly there. Not on Amazon and not in DIY stores like Leroy Merlin, remember that.